This is Justin AMZN on Monday, November 19th, 2018. And pre-market today started to break down. Coming out of this triangle that we drew in on Friday, and a little bit of breakdown, and now I've got it set up here right at 820. We're going to go one more candle, I'll show you what's going on. 825 candle. So market's not open yet. Get this large bearish candle. If we open here, we've actually taken out this line, which was working as resistance, resistance, broke out, support, support. Now it looks like we're going to get below that just to open today, which means we're taking out the low, or pretty close to the low, but we're also having a bearish gap and go because this was actually a bullish candle. It opened down here, closed up here. That means it's bullish. These two candles were both bullish, and we were talking about the kind of a little bit of a flag or pennant pattern that just goes sideways, has a little bit of bullishness, gets people to buy, and then continues moving lower. And that's what I was forecasting for today, that it was going to roll down and break out from this triangle. And it started to do that. So the day opens up with a retest back up into our line here, 1578.25, quickly sells off. You could have been getting into puts right on this line, right here, have a little bit of range on your stop, but going into it, just buying bearish, buying puts, and buying puts, not buying bearish. Going bearish. The next candle retested, doesn't quite come back up to the line here. And then the very next candle reverses. This is inside. And then the very next one is a high wave candle, makes a slightly higher high, slightly higher low than the previous candle, but still inside to the bullish candle here. And then continues to break down. Get a little bit of retest, stair step, and then continues lower. And pretty quickly in the first, almost hour, we've made it down to our next line here at 1540.45. We've taken out yesterday's low in the first 5 minutes, and within the first hour, we've taken out the prior day's low, Thursday's low. So we're definitely continuing lower. But it's moved really quickly. Makes sense that we've made it into another line, that we just kind of pause here, retest a little bit, and that's what happens. Some people were buying here, like this was a very aggressive double bottom. I do like this small candle, and this is definitely a trap, getting people to buy here, looking for it to bounce. All we've done is take out this low. That's it. It makes sense. We're going to retest to that low, and then we roll over. So we actually do go up a little bit higher. All right, and then we roll over. And we roll over back into the line. This was a really nice pattern here. We've got hammer candle, inside, inside again, and we've got a squeeze starting to form. And we start to break down, get into the next line, pause there. And it's just chopping around right on these lines. We get into the next one. So, it's been since that flash, not really a flash, but that big sell-off a couple weeks ago that we were down at these levels. But we got into the 1400s, 1476 and change a few weeks ago. So this line is at 1514. This line is at 1528. And this line is at 1540.45, and we've paused each of these, look like we're bouncing, come back down to it. Really nice stair step here, continues lower, goes sideways again, continues lower. Nice hammer with a bearish candle, similar probably to this candle where we've crossed below. This one bought up a little bit more. This one didn't. There's some nice hammers in here, but they weren't really working too well. Because we've just continued to take out the lows, and this one took out the low, and even another hammer here, and then we took out the low. So we really need something to say, hey, we're really going to reverse here. And we actually get a bunch of hammers in a row. So 1, 2, 3, 4 hammers in a row, basically. And actually get to move higher, make a slightly higher pivot to this one, not quite to this one, but what we've done is we've almost retested the lows of the initial sell-off here. So we move up a little higher, roll back down. So look at this. We retested. The high here is 1534. The low here was wrong candle. 1533, 39, 1534, 34, 1534.03. Yeah, that's a good level to retest. Retest it right here and here. So this is looking at where we're at, pivoting here. It's not following the lines, but it broke down, retested right here with these two candles, right at 1534 on this one, right at 1534.86 on this one, right back into these lows. So these lows were old support, new resistance, continued resistance. That rolled over. Very quickly rolled down with 4 bearish candles, comes right back down to this range here, and looks like it's going to reverse again. Squeeze formed, goes sideways. You get an inside candle, indecision candle, a hammer, and then a breakout from there. And so this looks like a double bottom. Actually a decent size one, a little bit stronger than this one, because you don't have the initial sell-off. We've actually crossed through the 21 exponential. We've got the squeeze momentum looking like it's building, a little bit bullish. And now we've actually made a new pivot here, a little bit higher. But overall, we've still come right back into the same level and started to reverse again. But in this case, we're going to hold the 1528 with another hammer. So the hammers have been key today. This is kind of a retest of a neckline. If you consider this line now the neckline, or up here the neckline, and we're dancing right on it, this is looking a little bit stronger. That it could come back up into that. What happens? Nope, rolls right back down and actually makes a new low. So even though it looked like it was going to get going doing something, overall today, bearish. We held the 1534 price pretty well, with a support here and then a support here, and then broke it. Had resistance, 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 resistance. And there were some opportunities. Maybe you didn't catch this one. There was opportunity here, here, and here. And even if you missed, this one, maybe you could have gotten this one. But all with the mindset of this is bearish. Scrolling back a little bit, this level was well below the lows. We only got back into the lows from Thursday with this retest, and then after that we stayed well below it. Zooming back out, we had this triangle here. We've stayed below it. Even this kind of S curve here, we didn't. You can see we just didn't get that high. After hours, we sold off. We're below 1500 after hours. We'll see what happens if we just gap down and continue. We've sold down again through this range. We did that here. Then we bought up through it here. And then we had sold off through the same range a couple times before, many times before. Once here, second time here, third time here, fourth time here. This range just really likes to sell. Besides it being a bearish gap and go today. So if we zoom in on the day a little bit more, you can see the close here, bullish, and a gap down, bearish, right below our line, right into no man's land, and it just sells us so fast. So the way I've got it zoomed in here, it looks like, oh, well, we should just gap down and buy up. It could totally happen tomorrow. That could totally happen. The only issue I've got is this is a really nice bearish gap and go. It's paused the 2 days we talked about, having a little bit of bullishness come in. This really could push down. If we get into the 1300s, I'd be looking to buy down there, below 1404. You had a really nice hammer way down here. You had some stair step candles right down here. This is where my lines I started drawing in. If we get down into the 1300s, wait for a hammer, something like this. Wait for something on the daily to form. Don't just buy blindly down there. Although, I mean, it wouldn't be that bad of a thing to do either. Thinking about the size of this pullback from being over 2000 down into the 1300s, that I'd be okay buying off of a very old support down here. We zoom out even more on this. I mean, it's a massive pullback to come down to this level, but overall the trend is still bullish, incredibly bullish. It would even make sense if we traded down even a little further, which is entirely possible. I'm just going to connect some of the lows here. Let's see where this points to. I'm just sketching this in, so 1250, somewhere in here, around 1250, just by connecting these lately, not even, doing any sort of assessment or anything to see, is this really the right place? Is this grabbing the lines in the right places? Let's see if we come back all the way to this one. Yeah, that's even lower. That's harder to do. Down there, maybe cutting through. No, I don't like that as much. I like this one a little better. But obviously this is really big picture. That's kind of our bullish trend line here. And you can see we're getting up into the 1250s, maybe a little higher. If we take a few more days, can I scroll a little further? No, I gotta change settings to that. If we get into the 1200s, I mean, we're almost to 1300 with this line. If it takes a couple days to come down a little bit more, it could still chop around down here. I mean, it could do something. We could come down this far and do this kind of a move back down, throw a wick into this line, and then bounce from there. And that would, I mean, that's pretty much coinciding. This line and, this low here and this line here. Not to say they have any relationship there, but anyway, that's big picture. Let's get back to the 5-minute. This is today. And I mean, had you been watching this or just getting in bearish right there, that would have been getting into a put. I'm looking at the 1500 put because it's a Monday, holiday week, be a little further away, get a really small risk to reward. 1500 was chopping around between $6 and $7 on Friday. It gaps up and opens at 850, sells down to 730, just a little bit above these prices. If you got a little bit more than a little bit more than $100 R, this would have been an easy one to set up a trade with a pullback to 750, possibly even 7, and a stop at 6, just pretty much bracketing this. A 7x6 would not have filled, should not have filled with this lower wick because it only came down to 730. Had you done 750, and again, there's no real reason to pick 750 for today other than it's above yesterday's price, and we should have a bit of a pullback on this kind of a gap. Even though it's a bearish gap and go, any sort of wick up, you'd have a chance to get in. If you miss this wick, after this candle pulls back, the low here was 889. Then the next candle a little bit higher, and then this candle comes down to 885. So this is the 845 candle, and there's an opportunity right here, 845, that this got close enough. Both of these got close enough that if your options price was in the right place, you could have gotten filled somewhere close to this line and a stop way up here or something. And that would have been, possible to get here. Not definite, not going to fill every time, but it would have been possibly close enough to fill there. As we continue on moving up, moving down with the stock and moving up with the option, there's some smaller candles in here, but all of them are pretty large, more than a dollar range on these. The next thing that I was looking at, so all that to say, it just would have been hard to get in anywhere else. Possibly this inverted hammer and a retest up to it. So 9:15. Let's see what happened at 9:15 and then at 9:50, 9:55 on the puts, just based on that candle. So at the 9:15 was a low of 11.25, and then the low on these candles was 12.75 and 12.37. So both of those are $1 higher than the low on this candle. So it would have been hard to have something set up, or bracketing this candle could have worked, but it would have been like a $200 R instead. So that could have filled here, but just a larger R. That's what makes it hard, even on a Monday holiday week, with this massive gap. With this massive gap. It's just a massive breakdown. The gap wasn't actually too crazy, and that's what helped it move so much during the day here, I think. So the next area I'd look at is the stair step, then a continuation, or a retest of this this low, probably retesting here. So looking at the 11:10, 11:15 candles, 10, 11:15, that was these lower wicks. It's retesting. The low here is 1880, 1890. The high here was 1850, 1859, 1855. So there's, some price that's close to each other in here. But again, not a guarantee that it's going to come back to just skim the highs, and that we would definitely get lows low enough into it. So another one that's not a great one to have a setup. Continues lower, retests here, breaks down, retests, continues lower here. Some people may have been looking at these hammers to buy, and it could have worked to get into one of those. So let's look at the 1220 candle here. So we'll look at the actual calls. 1220 was right here. The range on this was less than $1. So had you been buying like 650, that could have worked, but I mean, it only moved up to about 8. So 658, that's only 1.5 R. That's something that's counter trend, so you want to be aggressive. And if you're not aggressive, then you're back to break even and possibly getting trailed out as it just goes sideways. This is the 1600 call. While it's doing this going sideways, it's actually got a lot more bearish movements going on. If you were getting it at 650 here, the high on that was around 820 in here, and this comes back to this candle, this breakdown on the stock and breakout on the option, but this one comes back and pretty much fills this gap. So that's an opportunity to get in. Let's see, this candle was at 1245. The 1245 candle is right here. So we're making a retest. This is our first, this was our first retest into these lows. This is our second retest. And actually, it actually still pretty much holds this relative high to here. But the options then, we've made slightly lower prices here than here. So these lows were 1880s, 1890. The lows here were 1750, 1835, 1855. Would have had to have probably a little more than $100 R here. So again, if we can't get into this one, at some point here, you just got to buy at a price that makes sense to buy the put, and let the trade work. And that one worked quickly. And again, you would have had to exit down here. Otherwise, you lost a lot of that. And then this candle looking like it's breaking out, that reverses, pulls back, goes back up, doesn't get into this line again. We've seen that happen before. We don't get into the next line. It stays below, stays below, stays below. Even this last time here, if you're still even paying attention to charts or just want to get away with them, or get away from them, want to get away with it, want to get away from the charts, even these candles here presented opportunities because you're still holding this price. This is where we actually put in a very similar price low. So low here was 16. The low here was 1634. This is the one that was closest in price that you could have been setting up. Even the lows over here, 1540, 1545. That would have been, about $1 away. The price here you could use as your stop. It didn't even come down that far. So just for the setup, probably got filled here with a $100 R, and that just rallied. It easily moved 10 R in the last 45 minutes or whatever of the day here, and came right back up into these highs. It's a long time to wait. It's a long time to say, yeah, I'm not getting into this. I'm not getting. I need just the right setup, and trying to find the right options to do it. So, as much as it was exciting to see the breakdown today, there were some key areas to look for, but because of the choppiness in how things moved today, it was still a challenge to get into this bearish. The bigger picture of how it was moving, and what we had talked about Friday of this, a continuation bearish. That's what could have been. That's what you could have been trading today, even getting a little below the 1500. So you can go ahead through and look at your charts to figure out, well, which one would I have done? What rules tell me to go look at that one? And I'm mainly looking for a $100 risk, which means I've got a range on a candle that's less than $1. This is the 1450 put expiring Friday. And this had some much smaller candles in here. Similarly, we pulled back to the breakout point. So we pulled back to 7 here. And then these candles, we pulled back to, 650 by 550, getting your low below here. And then we didn't have as strong of a move, So we went from 650 up to 1150. So that's 5R. Had you held through all that right at the end of the day, there were some tighter opportunities to get in near the open. Similarly, we had a gap up, get above the consolidated price from Friday. This one you could have been doing 350 by 250, would have been a decent setup. Possibly filled here, 350, not quite filled here, but then filled here. And then that just continued higher the rest of the day. Not amazing, but it's not very aggressive to be this far out of the money and wait to see if you're going to get it to trade in your favor. And it did. It moved. Let's see. Overall today, the range is 77.83. So it moved quite a bit today, and had a decent volume, similar volume to what we had in the last 10 days or so. Slightly a little bit elevated, but while we're looking at volume, you can see the massive volume spikes in here, and then the ones down here aren't as convicted about that kind of a pullback. There's not everybody jumping on for it to move. So just something to take note of, that we could continue lower. It would be great if we stay in the 1400s, come back into one of these lines and then bounce. And really we'll have to look at what's going on at this range besides these 4 lines here that we were getting into today. So it's good to get into a group of lines like this. That's what we were doing the last few days up here. That looks like we're going to do here. It just provides a framework that we've already had on the drawings for a while to look through this. So my thoughts. Hopefully it plays out to continue lower, and then we'll get a nice rally out of it, possibly after Thanksgiving. But for the move today, this is exactly what we were looking for. Not exactly, just looking for a sell-off from this triangle, and we got it today. So it's pretty exciting to see things work out just like that. Hopefully positions you've got were protected, and it made sense what you could have done to get in bearish, using the options and to just be careful of when you're entering, when you're exiting the trade. So hope this helps. This is Justin AMZN. Thanks.